it doesn't feel good to me. And he said, okay, no problem. And I said, but I do have a bass player in mind, and that was Greg.
Okay.
So we agreed to try Greg out with Eric as Ray and I wrote songs. And after a while, it just felt right, and so we became a band because basically because Ray and I were writing songs, and those two were the guys that were filling in as we did it.
Now, the first Badlands album is very much a departure from what you were doing with Ozzy. It still has your signature kind of, I don't know, your rhythm style we've talked about, and of course just your overall guitar playing. But your guitar tone is a little drier. You're kind of going for more of a bluesier rock thing. That's kind of why I thought maybe you just kind of sick of doing this metal Ozzy kind of music, and that's what happened. But the first record, is still kind of a straight up rock record. You really kind of amp up the blues on Voodoo Highway.
Yeah, well, blues playing was it's sort of my basic groundwork is based off of blues playing, and if for no other reason than because it's simple. And when I first picked up the guitar, it was easier to figure out blues songs, and then it went to blues rock bands, say like Led Zeppelin, where I could figure out a Jimmy Page lick because of the groundwork that I had figured out in blues, and I gotta say though, that one of the things that made Jimi Hendrix my main guitar hero is that he didn't really base his stuff around the blues pentatonic. And when he did, it wasn't like everybody else. So his shit was so much harder to figure out. Anyway, where am I going with this? Yeah, the blues.
Voodoo Highway.
Everything goes back to the blues in my mind. I mean, you can expound on it. You can turn it into jazz. You can turn it into metal. But for me, blues is the foundation for what I like to do.
What happened to Eric Singer between the records? Why didn't he come with?
Did
I touch a nerve?
No. I'm just sure I'm sure in the old days, back when it first happened, I might have had a more politically correct. I don't know. Eric wanted to have an equal share of the songwriting.
Okay.
Is what it boils down to.
And you're like, shut up, drummer.
No. but I mean, it just and apparently Ray and Eric, when they were in Black Sabbath, had talked about forming a band together and how everything was going to be equally split.
Oh, okay.
So Eric felt like he had an agreement with Ray that the band they get into was going to be equally split. However, I wasn't a part of that agreement.
Of course.
And I don't, if you write part of the song, then you get an equal share. For example, Greg wrote parts of songs on Voodoo Highway, and it might have been, proportionately, it might have been 5 or 10% of the song. Mm-hmm. But in my mind, if you contributed at all, then you get an equal share. But drum parts don't make songs. I mean, that's just the way it is.
Well, it's actually the fundamental core of publishing and songwriting credit.
Yeah, it's chord progressions, it's
melody,
it's riffs, because riffs would count as melody.
Yep.
It's melody and it's lyrics. That's the song. Because then you can take that and you could do a reggae version of it. You could do a polka version of it. That's the song. The drum part is not part of the actual songwriting. Anyway, yeah, I'm going on too long about this. Anyway, Eric felt like he deserved an equal part of the songwriting, and Eric and Ray were roommates for the tour. And Ray, every day, Ray would come back to me and say, Eric won't stop. Eric just keeps hammering me about it. And at the end of the first tour, it was Ray's idea to get rid of Eric.
Okay.
He said, because he said, I just can't take it anymore. Eric wouldn't bring it up to me, but he apparently hammered Ray about it. And Ray said, I just can't take it anymore. We need to fire Eric. And it was me that had to do it, and I felt really bad because Eric's a great drummer, and I'm just really glad that he finally became a part of KISS and got his equal part of songwriting. That was sarcasm right there.
Right, yeah. Oh my Lord! I can't believe I missed that. I was looking towards like moving to the next thing. Nice dig. Yeah, he's Peter Criss now. I assume you bought your KISS farewell tickets, right?
That and the Ozzy farewell, because I'm sure neither one of them are going to do another tour to make money. I'm positive.
Oh, anyway, when did you know that Ray? When did you find out that Ray was sick?
During actually at the end of the recording of, it might have been in the middle of it, while we were doing Voodoo Highway.
Okay.
And that thing was just so ugly. It's the management we had for the first record. We weren't happy with, and it was he was also the liaison between us and the record company, Atlantic Records. So we all agreed that we wanted to fire management. That's when they came back to me and said, when Ray got sick, because he got pneumonia during the first tour, and we actually had to cut the tour short. He said when Ray had pneumonia, he had tests run, and he has AIDS. And I said, "Oh, I didn't I didn't know that." And then management said, and I can't remember who they were. I remember their faces. Oh, Paul O'Neill.
Okay,
he was part of it, and fuck him for this. He said, if you fire me, I will tell the record company that Ray has AIDS.
Wow.
And it will ruin your contract. And I told, I went to Ray after that. I said, well, this is what, Paul told me. And Ray said, it's not true. He's making it up. I said, okay. All right then. Fuck him. We're firing him, right? And he said, oh, yeah. So we did. And then at the end of the record, we were getting new management, and the record company told us that Paul O'Neill had told him that Ray had AIDS, and that if we got any tour support, that they would be contributing to Ray's ill health, because going on tour is not exactly
right.
It's not that healthy. It pushes you. It fatigues you.
Right.
And because of that, the record company said we're not going to give you any tour support, which made touring very difficult. But we were bullheaded, and we said, "Fuck you, we're going to tour anyway." So we rented 2 cars and a truck, and we would take turns driving. My car had me and Greg in it, and we would take turns driving and sleeping in the back seat, and foregoing hotels and all that shit. It was really rough, and so we did it that way, and we toured anyway as a big middle finger to the record company. And then during that tour, I remember we were pulled over at one point for speeding. Believe it or not.
Yeah.
We were pulled over, and they had us open the trunks up, and they started going through the bags, and they went through Ray's bag, and there was lot of medicine, the kind that you would take if you had, AIDS.
Yeah.
In the bag, and Ray, everybody in the band was kind of like, "Oh, what's up?" And Ray said, "No, it was for his uncle. His uncle did have AIDS.
Okay.
We knew about that." And he said, "No, this is for his uncle. He got it from somewhere, and he's transporting it to his uncle," which, that's not really a believable excuse. But I think at that point everybody knew, okay. And he was looking, frailer also.
Okay.
So it was during that tour that I knew for sure he was sick.
I mean, that's a pretty rough story. I mean, do you kind of forgive him for not being totally honest with that, considering the climate at the time and the prognosis he was facing?
I mean, absolutely. I think it was the drummer. It was Jeff, who was rooming with him at that time. Well, not rooming with him, but sharing a car with him.
Yeah.
For the drives. And Jeff came up to me and he said, "I don't want to be with him anymore. He's sick. Who knows how you can get it? Maybe you can get it by coughing." And I said, "Quit being an idiot. What's wrong with you?" And I had to argue with him for a while. And after that, Ray came up and he said, "Thank you." Because the other guys in the band, I guess, asked him, "Do you have AIDS?" I never asked him that. To me, it was his business. And Ray did come up afterwards and say, "Thank you for not even asking me, and thank you for having my back." And I said, I always will. And, but it just, God, everything just got so weird and ugly after that. Not my best memories.
Yeah, understandably.
But to answer your question, yeah, I totally did. I forgave him for that because it's his business. It's not anybody else's business. And at that time,
it was a much different climate. The prognosis was much worse.
Yeah, you're homosexual.
Yeah.
You're a homosexual, or at best, you're an intravenous drug user.
Yeah.
It was one of those two things, and yeah, there was. You didn't want to have to say you had it if you had it, and I totally understand why you wouldn't. And on that same track, there, I will say I think he did get it through a needle.
Okay.
When we first got Badlands together, and we were talking about working together, and you want to figure out if you're going to be compatible, and drug use came up, and neither one of us really did drugs, and I said, and I've never shot up because I don't like needles, and he told me he did one time, and that was with his uncle, because growing up, his uncle was gay, but he was a biker,
okay.
So he kind of had that macho tough thing. He rode a Harley, and Ray really admired him. And he said he wanted to try heroin one time. He did it with his uncle. And, looking back on all that, I think, because his uncle did have AIDS, he was, I think that's where he got it.
Okay. Well, speculation aside, let's get on a more positive note. Let's put it that way. Any chance we'll see a nice deluxe? Any chance we'll see some nice deluxe reissues that are so popular nowadays of those two records?
I don't know what's up with that. I just talked to my publishing agent the other day, and I asked him to look into it because I don't know what the story is on that. I know that. It's not available, hasn't been available for a long time, and I don't know exactly why Atlantic would be that way. But in a weird way, they've become really almost underground, iconic, legendary albums because you can't get them anymore.
Yeah.
It's but it's a shame that you can't get it. I mean, I have copies of it, but on my iPhone, I can't download it if I wanted to listen to a Badlands song.
Right.
Or for fuck's sake, if I'm on the road and I decide, let's do this Badlands song, I don't have anything to learn off of. And I do think it's a shame. because we did some really great work.